Is there a way to play Hail to the Chief backwards? Can we play backwards? Because then it would be unprecedented.
Yes.
Okay. John Aravosis and Cliff Schecter. What am I saying?
Schecter.
Schecter. Hi, John and Cliff.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, John and Cliff. Hi. You would get half naked for me for the Sexy Liberal Tour, wouldn't you?
Half.
Okay.
I'm fully naked.
Oh.
I was gonna say we already are. You think
I have no pants on as we're talking right now. I mean, for the Sexy Liberal Tour, I'd go full naked.
By the way, you are sexy liberals. John, you tweeted, spread the word. We're providing the protesters in D.C. with food, water, and supplies, porta potties this week. Wow, that was sexy and liberal of you.
Yeah, we got a lot of people chipped in, basically. We were just, Adam Parkhomenko and I and a woman, Irina Verity, who's done our Kremlin Annex protest, just decided to raise a lot of money for the protesters. And we raised 76,000 plus.
Wow.
Ben's Chili Bowl, we're giving some to some Baptist, some of the black churches for their work. And it's been really fun.
Yeah.
And kind of neat because the money's coming from all of you guys, which is what was so great.
That's
all the
awesome.
listeners.
Right. And speaking of D.C., as you said, Trump caved to a strong black woman. Ha ha. You retweeted him saying, "I've given the order for our National Guard to start the process of withdrawing from Washington, D.C. Everything's under perfect control." Right. That's why you put barbed wire on top of your 16 fences in your chicken coop, right?
You know, the neat thing with that is I finally went by the protest yesterday. To be honest, I've been a little worried about the coronavirus thing just as like everybody. That's had me a bit freaked out. But I got my good little N95 mask, went down yesterday, and what the protesters have done is they've turned the big fence in front of the White House into basically the Berlin Wall.
I know.
It's got posters, pictures, memorials, poems.
Yeah.
It was ribbons. I don't want to say beautiful because it's obviously very shocking, but they've turned it into a work of political art. So in a way, I'm kind of glad the wall's there now.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, oh my God. The whole thing, Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter way. I love how far the mayor of D.C. shoved it up Trump's ass this weekend. I couldn't love it anymore.
That's true. Last time he did that, he had to pay off someone not to talk about it.
Speaking of coronavirus, guys, you retweeted Michael Bender saying public health guidance is now a political fashion statement. Among those who always wear a mask outdoors, they're supporting Biden 66% to 26%. Those who never or rarely wear a mask, Trump is winning 83% to 7%. And John, you just said no. Democrats accept science. Republicans have accepted Trump's politicization of their pandemic. For the love of God, stop promoting these false equivalencies. Again, there is no dispute over whether a mask helps or it works. It works around the world, right? Social distancing, a mask.
Yes.
That's what works.
I keep cutting you off. I'm not used to this video thing. Like, I'm not sure when we're cutting each other off or we're not.
I know.
No, but just to put a finer point on it, it's not just that masks work. It's that when I wear a mask outside, I'm not doing it because I'm going, oh, look at my mask. I support Biden. I'm doing it because I don't want to die and I don't want to kill my neighbors.
Thank you.
And on the Republican side, it literally is a political statement. I'm not going to, like they've said, you're taking away my freedom. And,
I thought, oh my God, of all the, horrible.
Falls for this. I mean, actually. Yeah, the media falls for this, making this equivalence like, oh, they're political, so you're political. No.
Yeah. Yes, it's a sign of respect. It's just a sign of basic human respect. But I also feel like of all the horrible, a lot of the police, of course, playing thanks for proving our point entirely with their actions against protesters. But the one I saw, John and Cliff, that freaked me out is a cop pulling someone's mask off and pepper spraying them in the face. I was like,
I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that too. That's insane. I mean, they are proving the point, essentially, that we need to reform the hell out of them, quite frankly.
Yeah. And
demilitarize. And, they're supposed to be peace officers. And my problem is when somebody says something terrible, spits in your face, there are a lot of bad people out there, but your job is to be able to handle that temperamentally and not escalate. That's not the job. That's why you're called a peace officer. So, I mean, again, it's not to say that every protester has been perfect, but again, you guys need to be better than the rest of us. We give you guns and batons and put a badge on you.
And Cliff, we were talking about this earlier, that I get that defund the police sounds radical, and you're like, of course we have to have police. We're not talking about anarchy, but we were saying exactly what you just alluded to. What they need tanks, and teachers have to buy their own supplies. We're talking about reallocating some money in different ways for community policing, whatever kind of other programs because clearly we need systemic change. Clearly it's not just a couple bad apples, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, you can tell it's the culture and what happened in Buffalo and San Francisco, and I can go out there in LA. I can go on and on. I mean, it's clear what it needs to happen. I think we should really be talking about demilitarizing them. But to me, that's the best term, because I feel like we should be talking about, they don't need tanks. They don't need, regular police don't need riot gear constantly. They don't need all this. Let's take that money, as you said, use it on healthcare, use it on paying, for education. And I think if we're very clear about that, yeah, we want to be clear. We do need police. Honest police who do their job well are an essential service and are very important to all of us in a democratic society. But, we've been slowly kind of over the years turning them into this military force and giving them the signal that, that you can act with impunity, excuse me, and you can be the ones that are the aggressors. And that's insane. I mean, again, they are called peace officers for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, can I jump in, Steph? Because what you and Cliff both made a really important point. A lot of people are starting to speak out online now because they're getting worried about this phrase, defund the police. I've seen people that are actually putting out messages as if we no longer need a police department. And I think not only is that silly, because of course we need police, we need law enforcement in our neighborhoods, but it also is, I just think it's a dumb political message. As Cliff said, demilitarization, everyone rallies around that. Police don't need tanks. They don't need they've got machine gun turrets on top. It looks like D-Day, which we just celebrated. But I think as liberals, we've got to be careful, because everybody, I'm going to say this, everybody understands why we have police, right? I want my neighborhood protected. I want to call somebody if my place gets broken into, or if a woman I know gets attacked. So and I don't think it's as obvious as that, because some people, Cliff and I talked about it this morning, some people are actually talking about it as though we're saying, yeah, let's just get rid of police departments totally. And it's like,
of course not. Yeah. And, Jacob Fry, I think the mayor of Minneapolis, seems to me to be a good guy, and I know he was like literally crying at George Floyd's coffin. I mean, I think but seeing him get booed out of a Black Lives Matter protest, because he's obviously saying, but I mean, the Minneapolis City Council just, agreed on a plan to disband the police department. I understand as mayor, he's going, well, we can't, I understand there's got to be somewhere in between. But what they talked about, I mean, this sort of makes sense. We'd already pushed for pilot programs to dispatch county medical health professionals to mental health calls, fire department EMTs to opioid overdose calls without police officers. We have similarly experimented with unarmed community-oriented street teams on weekend nights downtown to focus on de-escalation. We could similarly turn traffic enforcement over to cameras, potentially our parking enforcement staff rather than our police department. So some of it, guys, like you say, it's not as radical as it sounds. It means taking some responsibility away from them. In some ways, they might be grateful for, to go, you focus on this stuff and let's take, they're not talking about defunding entirely. They're talking about reallocating money in different ways, right?
Yeah, I just think we have to be clear with everybody what we mean. I mean, my wife, who works with a number of progressive nonprofits, works with a group here in Cincinnati on and off that helps women who've been victims of domestic violence. And one of the big things they do is they have a counselor go, when there's a domestic violence situation, go with the police. A policeman will show up, but so will they, to purposely make sure, obviously, a woman is protected, but to de-escalate the situation. I think that's great. And frankly, de-escalation is another word we should use. I just worry when we say defund, people misunderstand it. So I want to make sure that we're clear with people. Demilitarization, de-escalation, these are very important concepts.
Yeah. And honestly, we need a hell of a lot of training too, because there's no excuse. I've never been a cop, but I've been in jobs that have been public service. And you know what? You get pissed at the public. The public can be rude, but especially when you've got a gun and the power of the state behind you, you have no right to say, I lost my temper and shoved the 75-year-old guy on the ground. I lost my temper, so I pulled the woman's mask off and hit her with pepper spray. To me, it is A, lack of sufficient training, and B, a lack of sufficient winnowing out of who shouldn't be cops.
Yeah.
Anybody who loses their cool like that, then you don't. My God, if this was the NRA doing it, we would say as liberals, you don't deserve to have a gun if you can't keep your head straight.
Yeah, and I feel like, guys, it's time to for a lot of us to listen, because we're all liberals, but I can say, look, I've never been rude to a cop. I've never insulted a cop. But I'm a little white lady. I've never been discriminated against by a cop. I don't live the experience that black people have lived. So, I think it's also time to take a look in the streets and listen at what's happening, because this is definite, and it's younger and it's multiracial, and there is something significant happening in our streets, don't you think, that we haven't seen before?
Absolutely. No, I think it's absolutely essential to listen to African American voices, to listen to Latina voices, and those who've been on the on the receiving end of when the police have acted like a military unit. Again, you're right. I'm not the woman part, but I'm the little white guy, and I don't have that experience too. And so I think, like with anything else, we do have to listen. We do have to sort of elevate those voices and try to understand that, that's conservatives who can never understand anything outside of their own little bubble.
Yep.
It's human in some ways, and we need to be better than that and try to understand that we all have different challenges based on different factors. And in this country, being African American, being a person of color means you've been a minority in this country, and that what goes on in your communities has been ignored and made worse often, since the dawn of time. So
yeah, exactly. So maybe it's not for us to say, "Oh, that's too radical," and let's just make some fixes and move on, because they're like, "Yeah, we've heard this 100,000 times, and nothing ever changes."
The only point I'm making really quick, though, is politically we've got to be careful. I think that's what Cliff and I are saying, is that you've got to always think of what your strategy is. Do you or don't you want to achieve these goals? And if you do, you've got to use words that don't scare people in the middle who you need on your side to make these changes. So that if you really don't mean eliminate all law enforcement, so literally there's no more law enforcement, then don't use that terminology.
Right.
What we're saying.
Yep, absolutely. Cliff, how tall are you? You're not that little. I mean,
Cliff is 6'3" and 239 pounds.
Okay, fantastic. That's what the White House doctor says.
Exactly.
The podcast is Unprecedented on the Sexy Liberal Podcast Network.
Yes.
Our very brand new, our newest members. They've been through hazing. They made it.
Yes,
they're a huge hit.
Yeah, that paddling Stephanie gave me, I don't know.
Oh, don't act like you didn't like it.
Yeah, John.
Unprecedented.
That's what you get if you tune into the next virtual Sexy Liberal tour.
There you go.
Paddling of John.
There you go.
Well, hello. All right, sexyliberal.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.